What's up there, travel famous? Your favorite cruisologist, Sean here with another video just for you. Over the last 2 days, we have talked about the myths of cruising as well as what an actual travel advisor does that Google cannot do for you. Those are the last two videos we did. In today's video, we are going to talk about the real cost of a cheap trip, say that fast 3 times, versus a smart trip. All right, and we're going to talk about we're going to talk about four different things. And again, these are not the only four things. These aren't in any particular order, but we're just going to roll with it. All right, so one of the things that we're going to talk about are hidden fees. We're going to talk about the hotels. We're going to talk about transportation. And we're going to talk about the bookings. All right. We're going to talk about the cost of booking a cheap trip. Now, let me just say this as well, because I don't want people to feel like, oh, I'm clowning anybody. I can't afford this. I can't afford that. I want everyone to do what is comfortable for them. What this video is about, it's not about shaming anybody about your budget and how you choose to take a trip. This video is about just knowing upfront some of the hidden costs that we don't see when you're booking that trip or that cruise. You see a price posted, but then if you see let's say it's a cruise and it's $600, by the time you add taxes, fees, gratuity sometimes, and all the other things, that $600 trip has now become $800 and $900. And you're asking yourself, where did all the extra money come from? So this is what this video is about. This is not to shame anybody, but to be aware of some of the things that come along when we're booking vacations. All right. So again, one of them is like I said, hidden fees. The second, we're going to talk about hotels. The third, we're going to talk about transportation. And the fourth, we're going to talk about bookings. All right. So again, let's get into it. Now, we talk about hidden fees. If anyone has ever stayed at a hotel, have you ever heard someone say, or have you seen in small writing that it'll say, hey, resort charges are, and they could vary 30, 40, 50, $60 per day. So that could be an extra, if it's $40 a day, you're doing another 5 day trip, be an extra $200 that you are being charged a resort fee for every day. And people may ask, what does that include? Sometimes that includes using the gym, uh, using maybe if you're using the phone in your room, or whatever the extra cost is, they are charging you for that. It could be even for Wi Fi. But again, if you are, and we'll talk about this in the hotels, about being a rewards member of a particular brand, then sometimes those things are included. All right. But again, hidden fees, resort fees is what they call them. You see them at a lot of, um, all inclusives and stuff as well. You also have taxes, taxes and fees. Anytime you book anything, I don't care where you go, there are taxes and fees that are applied. And some of those fees, they're like service fees. They give them all kinds of different names. But anyway, fees nonetheless. You want to do business, you got to pay those fees. All right. And then the other thing is gratuities, the tips. Now, I will say sometimes next time you go out, pay attention and look at your receipt and see sometimes if you aren't already being charged a gratuity, if you get a drink or whatever it is, you get a meal or whatever, sometimes the gratuities are included. I do know for a fact that when I cruise, there's usually a gratuity added into the bill when I buy a drink. Now, again, this is not to say you shouldn't tip people. This is not to say that, you're trying to skimp out on the tipping, but just again, pay attention and be aware because these are and can be hidden fees that we don't always think about when we're traveling. We buy a drink and you may tip or you may not. But again, if you're going to tip, then just keep that in mind. That's a hidden fee that's not listed that you have to think about. All right. So, those are just some of those hidden fees. The second thing we're going to talk about are hotels. Now, a lot of times when we see hotels, again, taxes and fees and stuff are not included in the initial price. So you may go on and you may get ready to book a hotel and it may say $300 a night. Okay, I'm just using round numbers for sake of this conversation and make it easier. And then by the time you get through the checkout process, you've added all these different things, right? Now that $300 is now 360 or 370 because your taxes, fees, maybe service charges, and sometimes even service charges even then are not included at that point. So you got to read the fine print as well because it will tell you the resort fees or whatever it is cost per day. All right. So again, it's just being mindful of those hidden fees um, that are there. The other thing when it comes to a hotel is picking the right hotel, picking the right location. Those things are key. Listen, you don't want to have this wonderful trip planned and then you get to a hotel and it's 30 miles from where you want to be and you have no transportation, which we're going to talk about next. Um, and it's in a shady part of town. You don't want to do that. So I really um, try to stress to people to really stay at, a hotel in a downtown area, somewhere that's well lit, and close to what it is that you want to do. And you can always check the proximity of what you want to do. What I did, I had planned a trip to Texas and I mapped out exactly what I wanted to do before I left. I mapped it out. I knew where I wanted to go. And again, we're going to talk about this the transportation, how I was able to decide if I wanted a car versus car service. All right. So picking the right hotel is key. All right. Picking the right location. And if you are a rewards member with any particular hotel brand, then make sure that you're using all the benefits of that. If you have a credit card for that particular hotel brand, then make sure that you are using it so that you are earning points on a consistent basis so that you can use those points towards your hotel stay. All right. So again, picking the right hotel, right location is going to be key. All right, because here's what happens when you don't. Stress, and more stress. All right. Let's avoid the stress if we can. Make it easy on ourselves and just pick the right hotel at the right location. All right. And again, remember that Google is your friend. Let Google, if you know what you want to do, let Google help you out with trying to find the best hotel. And if you think you found a hotel and you're not really sure that it's still close to what you want to do in close proximity, then simply pick up the phone, call the hotel, and ask. It's really that simple. Just pick up the phone, ask whatever you need to ask. Hey, are you close to? Are you this? If you're going to a concert or an event, are you close to this? How far are you from this place? And the hotel staff will be more than happy to help you. So make sure that you're picking again the right hotel location. Can't stress it enough. All right. The third thing is transportation. Now I kind of touched on this a little bit, so I'll give you a good quick story about uh, my transportation options when I was going to Texas. So I knew exactly where I wanted to go. I knew what I wanted to do when I got to Texas. So I went on um, and did, just some regular research. I got the addresses of each place that I want to go to. I had the address of my Airbnb that I stayed at. And I just started writing things down. And about maybe 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I started putting things in. Even though I'm here in a whole different state, I decided that I was just going to go in and put the airport, Dallas Fort Worth Airport, in. From there to my Airbnb, and then from my Airbnb to where I wanted to go, and all around the city and all that stuff, and then back to the Airbnb. I did all of that. And then I also looked up the cost of a rental car. Now, even though I'd have to pay for gas, it was still cheaper for me to rent a car than it was the cost of the car service. And here's the other thing that I will say about the car service that wasn't included. When I was putting in all of that information, what I wasn't adding in were tips. So let's just say it was going to cost me $300 just to get back and forth to the different locations. Now I got to add tips to that. How much more is that going to be? So now again, that $300 could now be another 350, 325, three. It doesn't matter. It's going to be more than what that actual price was when I started here. Now we're up here. All right. So again, you want to really think about planning ahead of time. All right, because it will save you in the long run from a lot of stress, guys. Stress. We want to go on vacation and not be stressed. All right. So again, planning ahead, thinking ahead, and planning accordingly will help avoid some of that stress. So again, transportation is another hidden cost that we tend to sometimes forget about. We get to a place and then we want to know how we're getting there. I cruise a lot, so sometimes the hotels that I stay at may not offer a shuttle, and I usually fly in the day before. So, if you just, you want a decent place to stay, um, then I might find something. Maybe you find a hotel that offers a shuttle, so you don't have to pay the transportation costs from the airport to your hotel. But again, these are hidden fees that we do not think about, that we should, and we just, it just doesn't cross our mind. The other thing that I'll say about hidden fees, and I didn't touch on this when I talked about hotels, is that if you are going on a cruise, like I said, I cruise a lot, then there's also going to be a cost from the hotel to the port. Okay. And so usually that happens one or two ways. You can either, or one or three ways. You can get a private car service that's going to cost you. So you get some type of like black car or whatever. Okay. That's one fee. The other fee may be a car service, whichever one you use, whatever the case, that's the fee for that. Or most times, different companies will kind of work with the hotels to set up shop basically and offer uh, rides to and from the cruise terminals. All right, to the cruise port. So that may be. I think last month when I went on my trip, I think that cost is $15 per person. But again, this is not something that's included in the cost of your cruise, the cost of your flight, uh, any of those things, the cost of your hotel, those things are not included. They're extra. And again, I can't stress enough, these are hidden fees that we do not think about sometimes. All right. So definitely transportation. How am I going to get around to where I want to go while I'm here in this city or this country? I will say this: I've traveled to Jamaica several times. I've done land vacations and I've done cruising. And either way, transportation in to get in and around Jamaica can be very, very expensive. So if you're going with a group of people, make sure again, you're planning ahead. You know what the costs and stuff are. Get it in writing if you can, and then you can split the cost or whatever. Or again, you save above and beyond with the hotel and with the resort or whatever it is that you're staying. So again, those are just fees that we don't think about. Also for excursions, whether you do a land vacation, a cruise vacation, that is another thing that we don't think about. The cost of excursions. Through cruise lines, they can be a little pricey, but there's again some advantages to booking with it. Again, we'll talk about that in another video. But you want to make sure that you are including those costs as well. Again, on the cruising side, if you like to have continue to have access to the world while you're on the ship, then you got to think about Wi-Fi. Okay, you got to think about drinks if you want the drink package, which can also be expensive. But if you're not going to buy the drink package, then you're going to need some money for that. Again, on the cruising side, you're going to need money for pictures. So there's all these other hidden costs that are not included in the price of your cruise that you are going to have to pay for. Specialty dining is another one. That it's it's not a hit. It's not hidden. It's a cost, but it be hidden if you don't know, and then you just plan to go to a uh, a restaurant one night. You make reservations and go, and then you're surprised when they ask for your sale and sign card because now they want to charge you for the dinner. There are fees for those. And so again, just being aware. All right. And the last thing we're going to talk about is booking. What do I mean by booking? Simply this: booking your hotel, booking your cruise. You want to make sure that you are booking with the right people. All right. And this is where we talk about how the real cost of of a cheap trip. I don't know why I would struggle with that versus a smart trip. Because if you are a smart consumer, a smart traveler, then you will know that booking with the right people can be in your best interest. So here's what I'll say about this. And again, I could do another video about this later. But booking with third party sites, and I think you guys know what that is. Some begin with E, some begin with O, some begin with a whole bunch of other letters. Um, Booking with those sites can be great. I know sometimes we see some amazing deals, and like, hey, let me just go in and book this. But there are a lot of disadvantages to doing that. When you book with the right person, whether you book with an advisor or if you're working directly with um, the vendors themselves, whatever hotel or whatever flight or whatever it is, there are truly advantages. And some of those advantages are that if something should happen, with your flight, something should happen with the hotel or whatever it is. When you book with those other sites, all you get is a phone number. And if it's after hours, good luck. When you book with a travel advisor, you're going to not more like you will get us. You will get us, and we're able to speak on your behalf to the vendor and say, "Hey, what's going on? Book my client on this trip. What is happening? This is the room category we built. We that we paid for. What is happening? All right." We're also sometimes able to offer perks and deals that you don't see online. So, for instance, we might be able to get, if you're doing a cruise, we might be able to get some type of onboard credit. Or maybe there might be a package, you might see something online and you try to book it, but maybe we can get that same booking and maybe add, like I said, a onboard credit, or maybe we can get you a drink package. There's all sorts of perks and things that we can do that you sometimes can't do on the other sites. But I think more important is that you get somebody to talk to on the smart side of travel. All right. So again, just thinking about the booking, who you're booking with, and the peace of mind that you can have from booking with the right person. Because again, we are trying to avoid as much stress as possible. All right. So now that we talked about the kind of cheap side of travel, let's talk about the smart side. Now, what does a smart trip look like? Okay. Um, you think about all the things and you plan accordingly. So again, that's thinking about the cost of not only just your hotel stay and not only the cost of your airfare, but you're thinking about the cost of transportation, whatever those options look like for you. Okay. You're thinking about all those things and you're planning accordingly. And that's what a smart traveler does. A smart traveler just plans accordingly. All right. You include the extras for the incidentals. That a lot of times when they're asking for those like holes on your credit cards and stuff, those are for the incidentals, whatever that may be. Okay. Again, there, just in case something should happen, you tear up the room, there's smoking in the room, whatever. Um, that money is being held on your card. So again, you have to remember as well, if you have a credit card, I would suggest using your credit card when you travel because there are so many benefits. And if you have some type of rewards card, check the benefits of your card. Look at the perks, see what's being offered. All right. And then use those benefits to your advantage. All right. Um, so again, on a cruise, you may be able to prepay for your gratuities a lot of times. Now, that's another whole story in itself. We can do another whole video about gratuities, whether we pay it, whether we don't pay it, we take it off when they charge it. It goes on and on. But again, you may prepay for your gratuities to have them included. So that's planning smart. All right. Um, you find the right hotel. You find the right hotel with the right location. Okay. Um, you've mapped out your transportation cost. You know ahead of time, is it cheaper for me to rent a car or is it cheaper for me to use a service or a car service? All right. And you book with the right people. Booking with the right person will save you a lot of stress. And that's really all I'm trying to do with today's video. I know it's a little bit long, it's almost about 20 minutes, but that's really all that I have for you. I just really want you guys to think about, like I said, the real cost of a cheap trip versus a smart trip, and what does that look like? And all it really is just simply planning. Take a little extra time, plan it out, map it out, know exactly what you want to do. And I'm not saying you can't be spontaneous, but just kind of know what you want to do and then plan accordingly. So listen, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. That is all I have for you. Do me a favor, make sure you comment, share, and like. Drop some of your hidden charges or some of the hidden things that maybe you I mentioned today or I did mention and you know about that I don't know about. Let's share this with the community. And remember, guys, as always, travel is sexy. And I'm out. Peace.